Feeder configuration according to US standards in TIA selection tool. Control panel design in TIA selection tool now supports the design of load feeders according to North American standards. You can now see how this works directly in TIA selection tool. To design a new load feeder, first go to the main circuit and select a new US infeed. After clicking on New US infeed, it is created, and you can first define the parameters of the infeed by clicking directly on the infeed symbol. Next, you define the network configuration. You can choose between solidly grounded Y and corner grounded delta. You define the network voltage and can also set the maximum short circuit current at the infeed. That is at the point directly upstream of the machine control cabinet. A click on the main circuit brings you back to the usual main circuit view, and you can start configuring the electrical load. In this case, this is the power of the motor in horsepower, for example 5 HP. As soon as this value is selected, the standard current, the so-called FLC, is automatically pre-selected. This is determined based on the power. In addition, enter the FLA, the actual current, which is also shown on the motor's nameplate. Another important specification is the so-called service factor. This describes how much a motor may be overloaded. If this service factor is less than 1.15, the overload relay must later be set to a slightly lower value to prevent the motor from overheating. You also define whether the motor should be part of the total current calculation in the main circuit or not. If the motor or load is a so-called bypass load, which is only used as a replacement drive if, for example, another drive fails, select No here. You can define the cable length, that is, you set the cable length between the protective device and the load. Then select the minimum cable cross-section. This specification is defined in AWG, American Wire Gauge, and therefore the following applies here. The larger the cable cross-section, the lower the AWG number. You can also define separate cable properties for inside and outside the control cabinet for UL load feeders. In the North American standard, parameters such as the ambient temperature, the number of loaded conductors within a cable duct, and the maximum cable temperature play a major role. Set these here. Then switch directly to the control device's configuration. On the right-hand side, you see the usual single-line diagram, but for the North American market with the corresponding ANSI symbols. Under Properties, you define how you want to set up the load feeder. First select the start type, direct or reversing start, and also the corresponding setup type, which is defined in the standard. Define the preferred control voltage and connection type and specify the cable characteristics within the control cabinet. Only one click on Calculate and the results are displayed in the single-line diagram on the right side. Here you can see the so-called self-protect combination motor controller, then the two contactors, and finally the minimum cable cross-sections to be used. These are safely configured for the specified rated current, overload, and ambient conditions. In the single-line diagram, you can also see information about the motor. Important note: this information is also the basis for the value you see here, the value which must actually be set on the overload relay. In this case, this would be 5.52 amps, because the motor has a service factor of less than 1.15. You can find further information in the info dialog. The Information tab shows the standards used for the calculations, the existing basic conditions, the FLA value, power factor, and information about the cables inside and outside the control cabinet. Under Certificates and Notes, you will find all the certificates required for the documentation, including links for a direct download from the Siemens Industry Online Support Portal. A click back on the main circuit now shows that a first load feeder has been designed. In this case, a solidly grounded Y network with 480/277 volt. You now have the possibility to add further loads, for example, by right-clicking on the first load feeder to duplicate it and then configure it. You can do this as often as required until you have designed the complete main circuit. Control Panel Design now offers this and much more in TIA Selection Tool. Have fun trying it out!